Hello and welcome to another quick to the point After Effects tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be following on from the last in the series where we've taken this original shot and we're going to set fire to the building. In this one it's only a quick one, but it's a vital step before we start adding the flames, and that is to convert this to a day to night shot. So I've broken this series up into stages, so each tutorial tackles a different subject. And it also helps me get them done as I make these tutorials in amongst working and raising a young family. In the first one, we took our original plate like this and we did some object removal. We removed this car and we added some extra windows and got rid of this alarm box up here. And as you can see there, we made this clean plate. The next step was to roto out Chris here. And then following on, we smashed up the windows. So in the last tutorial, we added some damage to these windows, and in between that tutorial and this tutorial, I went and smashed out the rest of the windows. I took away this light box up here, as during the next stage, what we're about to get into now, it makes it look a bit weird. And that's to convert the shot that we've done so far into a day to night shot. Luckily, when I shot this back in, I want to say 2017, it was quite late in the evening. I think it was like autumn time or coming into winter. And it was maybe like 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. In terms of light, it was light enough to get the detail, but not too light that it kind of makes a day to night conversion look a bit rubbish. As it's an important step before we start adding the fire, I thought I would just get this done in a super quick tutorial, and it might also help others that if they're specifically looking for day to night conversion tips, this will be the one for them. Right, so first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to take our smashed windows comp and we are going to drag that to the create new comp. We'll call this one 5 day to night. Okay, and there's only a couple of steps on this one. Luckily, we don't have any skyline to deal with. The only issue we will probably have is the highlights on these PVC window frames, but we will get around that later with some burn damage, as well as the flames from the fires that are going to be coming out the window will probably help blend it a bit. So we don't need to worry about the detail too much on that one. So first things first, we're going to select our comp, go up to effect, color correction and curves. And we're just going to bring our highlights down nice and low, and then just drop the midtones a little bit. Let's just collapse down the curve so we can see what's going on in the effects control panel. Go up to effect, color correction, lumetri color. And open that up, and we're just going to cool down the temperature a little bit. So we add a little bit of blue in there. And then we're going to go down to the color wheels and just add a tiny little bit of blue in the midtones and the shadows. And I always like to dial off and on, so it's quite blue in that one. We can probably, so if you double click these, it resets them, and just drag that over and drag that one over as well. It's about the same. And what we're going to do in a sec, we'll dial that down a little bit. So we're just going to drop the midtones levels down a bit as well, and drop the shadows down a bit so it's nice and dark. And then we'll collapse lumetri color, and again with it selected. And one more thing I like to do to help sell this effect is just dial the saturation down a little bit. So up to effects, color correction, hue and saturation, and then we'll just take that down, say -40. So it's almost half. We don't want it to be too desaturated, but just enough to dial down some of that blue. Okay, so that is pretty much our day for night shot done. One thing I will point out is the highlights on these UPVC window frames. Obviously, they're a lot brighter than anything else in this shot. So what we can do, which I don't think is going to be completely necessary, because when we've added all the flames and the smoke and the embers and all the other bits of damage going on, we're probably not going to see the white frames so much. And if we do, it's going to be because of the light coming from the fire that's illuminating the walls as it comes out the windows. So we got a little bit of leeway there. But if we did want to take that down, what we could do is just create a luma mat of the window frames. And what I would do for that, if I was going to do that, I would go back into our smashed windows. I'm going to duplicate that with Command D. We'll call that smashed window frames. Go into that. Actually, I'm going to be really pedantic and call that 4B. Smashed window frames, and we're going to turn Chris off here. Oh, turn off caps lock. So we just turn off Chris. So we've just got the clean plate there with the smashed windows. Go back into our day to night comp, drag in 4B, and then we are going to color correction, tint, make it black and white, effects, color correction, levels, and then we're just going to crunch this up so we got nice black and white image there. Again, doesn't need to be 100% perfect. We can blur and sharpen, then go to, let's just do a fast blur on that one. Just do a couple of pixels. That'll do. And then we'll just get a layer, new adjustment layer. And then we can set that to a luma mat. So now, whatever we do to this adjustment layer will just affect the pixels that are white here. So we can just go effect, color correction. Let's try curves. I believe that is, let me just test that's work in a second. Like if I go green and just go highlights, I believe, yeah. Okay, so that's working nicely in terms of the luma mat. Let me just reset that. So we want to just bring those down a little bit further. Let's zoom in there. What I always like to do is zoom in nice and tight and then just turn off and on any effects I've added. And you can see what's happening there. It looks like they've got a little bit of issue there, and I think that's probably the blur. So we could probably have that. Let's taken it down some. And there we've darkened those window frames. Again, I may not need to use this. I'll just leave this here just in case. We'll just name this one window frames. And there we have it. There is our day to night conversion. Fortunately, this was a very easy shot to work on. There's no harsh sunlight. There's no big shadows. It was shot quite late in the day, so it just kind of made it easier to darken up a bit. What I might do in the future is take a harder shot to work on. It's a bit of a pet peeve of mine where I will see tutorials online where they will get the most easiest example they can, and it makes everything look nice and easy. I like to pick something that's a little bit trickier. I think it's more beneficial for you guys as well, is to see something what's not a perfect example, something that you'll probably find in real life, that it's not going to be shot perfectly, there's going to be issues somewhere, and it kind of helps to show some workarounds that are more practical. But what I might do in the future is create a tutorial on day to night conversion where there's a little bit of pre-production done in terms of how to light it for day to night, how to shoot it for day to night, or ones where you get a shot that you actually need to do quite a bit of work on to make it look like it's actually, you know, you've taken something that was shot in high noon and trying to turn it into nighttime. But that'll be probably far in the future. I've got quite a few tutorial ideas I want to get out in the next couple of months. So in the next episode, I will be introducing the fire elements. And one thing I'm thinking of doing once this series is completed is potentially joining them all up into one long follow-along tutorial, releasing the raw footage for this shot so that you can actually work with it as well. I'm not entirely sure on where I can host the file so that it's easy for you guys to download. I'll need to look into that. This is something completely new to me, to be fair. The only other issue as well is I'll probably just have to list where I've gotten some of the elements from, as I wouldn't have permission to distribute any of the fire assets or broken window bits that I've used. So I'll probably just give voiceover advice on where to get stuff from, or show where I've gotten mine from, and you can follow along. Do let me know in the comments if you found that useful, and I will see you next time.